The fluorescent lights at Lima Community Bank hurt my eyes that morning. October 15th, 2023, Tuesday. I remember because it was the day everything ended and began at the same time. I'd woken up at 5:47 a.m., earlier than usual. My hands shook while I made coffee, not from nerves, from something else. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching, something I couldn't name yet. The check sat in my purse. $342,750. $342,750. The farm sale had closed on October 10th. 5 days of that money sitting in escrow felt like 5 years. I'd told no one, not Garrett, not even Eloise until the papers were signed. 320 acres of Pennington land sold to AgriCorp Development for $350,000. After the realtor took her cut, after the title company took theirs, I walked away with $342,750. Thomas and I bought that land in 1978 for $87,000. We were 26 years old and stupid with hope. The teller's name was Rebecca, young girl, maybe 23. She smiled when I pushed the check across the counter. Deposit to checking, Mrs. Pennington? Yes, all of it. She blinked, read the amount twice. This is quite a sum. Would you like to speak with our financial advisor about? Just deposit it, please. My account had $1,547 in it before that check. I'd been living on $1,583 a month from Social Security since Thomas died. 5 years of pinching pennies, buying generic medications, skipping meals I didn't need anyway. Rebecca typed for what felt like an hour. The computer made small beeping sounds. Behind me, an older man coughed. The clock on the wall said 9:23 a.m. All set, Mrs. Pennington. Your new balance is $344,597. I thanked her, folded the receipt, put it in the inside pocket of my blue wool coat, the one Thomas bought me in 2017. It still smelled like him if I buried my face in the collar. Old Spice and wood smoke. I made it to my car. A 2004 Toyota Camry with 180,000 miles and a dent in the back bumper from when I hit a shopping cart in 2019. My hands found the steering wheel. That's when my left hand stopped working. Just stopped. Like someone unplugged it. I watched my fingers curl inward, slow and strange, like they belonged to someone else. I tried to straighten them. Nothing. My face felt wrong. Heavy on one side. I lifted my right hand to touch my cheek and it was numb. Completely numb. Like when the dentist gives you too much Novocaine. I tried to say help. My mouth moved but no sound came out. Not a whisper. Not a breath. Nothing. The parking lot spun. I remember thinking about the receipt in my coat pocket. About Garrett finding it. About him knowing what I'd done. Then darkness. I woke up in Lima Memorial Hospital at 4:17 p.m. I know because the clock on the wall was the first thing I saw. Digital, red numbers, angry looking. A nurse stood beside my bed. Older woman, gray hair in a tight bun. Her badge said Carol. Mrs. Pennington? Can you hear me? Blink once for yes. I blinked. You've had a stroke. Ischemic stroke, left side. Do you understand? I blinked again. Tried to speak. Nothing. My tongue sat in my mouth like a dead fish. Carol patted my arm. Your speech will come back. The doctor will explain everything. Your son is on his way from Columbus. Garrett. Of course they called Garrett. He was listed as my emergency contact. Had been since Thomas died. I tried to move my left arm. It stayed where it was, useless and heavy against the white sheets. My left leg the same. Half of me worked. Half of me didn't. The door opened. A doctor came in. Young. Too young. He had kind eyes but tired ones. His name tag said Dr. Brennan. Mrs. Pennington, I'm Dr. Brennan. You're stable now. The stroke affected your speech center and left side motor function. We're going to keep you here for observation. Then you'll need physical therapy. Several months, most likely. I tried to nod. My head barely moved. Your son should be here within the hour. Rest now. They left me alone. The room smelled like disinfectant and something else. Something sour. It reminded me of the hospital where Thomas died. Same smell. 3 years ago. Lung cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. He never complained once. I thought about the receipt in my coat pocket. Where was my coat? I couldn't turn my head far enough to see the chair by the window. At 6:14 p.m., Garrett walked in. He looked older than 40, older than when I'd seen him last, 3 months ago at his Aunt Linda's funeral. His hair was thinner, his face was drawn. He wore a wrinkled button-down shirt and jeans with a stain on the left knee. Mom. He stood at the foot of the bed. Didn't come closer. Jesus, they said you had a stroke. I tried to speak. Made a sound like a groan. He flinched. The doctor said you can't talk. That right? I blinked once. Yes. He pulled the chair closer and sat down, ran his hands through his hair. This is bad timing, Mom. I'm in the middle of closing a deal in Columbus. Big one. I can't really stay. A woman appeared in the doorway. Blonde, thin, maybe 35. She wore expensive jeans and a leather jacket that probably cost $400. Garrett, everything okay? He turned. Yeah, Sienna, come in. This is my mom. Sienna. I'd never heard that name before. Never heard Garrett mention a girlfriend. We talked maybe once a month on the phone. Brief conversations where he told me about clients and I told him about the church bake sale. She walked to the bed, smiled, perfect teeth, too perfect. Mrs. Pennington, I'm so sorry. This must be terrifying. Her voice was smooth, practiced, like a realtor or a therapist. I stared at her, tried to place her face. Had we met before? Garrett stood. We're engaged. I was going to tell you, just hadn't found the right time. Engaged. My son was engaged to a woman I'd never met. Sienna touched his arm. Garrett, why don't you go get us some coffee? I'll sit with your mom for a minute. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, okay. Be right back. The door closed behind him. Sienna waited 5 seconds. Then she pulled the chair even closer, leaned in. Her perfume was strong, floral and chemical. She looked directly into my eyes. I know what you did, Martha. My heart monitor beeped faster. I know you sold the farm. I know exactly how much you got for it. And I know where you put the money. I tried to move. My body wouldn't respond. Sienna smiled again, wider this time. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me, for now. She patted my hand, the one that still worked. Garrett has no idea. Poor thing. He thinks you're broke. Living on Social Security, barely scraping by. That's what you told him, right? My throat felt tight. The beeping got faster. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to need care. Serious care. I know a place. Riverside Care and Rehabilitation. It's not fancy, but it'll do. And Garrett's going to sign you in. As your responsible party. She stood up, smoothed her jacket, opened her purse and pulled out a tissue, dabbed at her eyes like she'd been crying. He's a good son. He'll do what's right. And you, she leaned down one more time, whispered, you're going to stay very, very quiet. The door opened. Garrett came back with 2 paper cups of coffee. Everything okay? Sienna turned. Her face was soft now, concerned. Your mom's resting. She squeezed my hand. I think she knows we're here for her. Garrett looked at me. I looked back, tried to scream. Nothing came out. He set the coffee down, pulled papers from his back pocket, unfolded them. I recognized the letterhead. Riverside Care and Rehabilitation. Mom, Sienna knows this place. She used to work in senior services. She thinks it's the best option. You'll get physical therapy, nursing care, everything. I can't take care of you in Columbus, and your apartment here isn't set up for... Sienna touched his shoulder, smiled at me. In her purse, just visible when she shifted, I saw more papers. Admission forms, yellow post-it notes marking signature lines. Everything was already decided. Garrett kept talking. I stopped listening. I watched Sienna. She watched me back. And I knew exactly what she was doing, what she planned. My coat hung on the chair by the window. The receipt sat in the inside pocket. $3,444, $597. Half a lifetime of work. Gone. Or about to be. Thomas used to say I was too trusting, too soft. He'd tease me about it while we sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. Martha, he'd say, You'd give away the farm if someone asked nice enough. I never thought it would come true. The fluorescent lights hummed. The machines beeped. Garrett signed something on his phone. Sienna stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder, looking at me over his head. She winked. They discharged me from Lima Memorial on October 18th. 3 days of tests and scans and doctors poking at my dead left side like it might suddenly wake up. Dr. Brennan stood by my bed that morning with a clipboard. You're neurologically stable, Mrs. Pennington, but you'll need extensive physical therapy, months of it, and someone to help with daily activities. I wrote on the notepad they'd given me, home. Your apartment isn't accessible. No grab bars, narrow doorways. You'd need modifications. He glanced at Garrett, who stood by the window staring at his phone. Does your son have space? Garrett looked up. I'm in a studio in Columbus. Barely room for me. Sienna appeared in the doorway like she'd been waiting for her cue. She probably had been. Dr. Brennan, I've been researching facilities. Riverside Care and Rehabilitation has excellent ratings. They specialize in stroke recovery. She handed him a brochure. Glossy. Pictures of smiling elderly people in wheelchairs, sunshine pouring through windows. I'd seen enough nursing home brochures to know they all looked like that. The reality was always different. Their therapy program is comprehensive, Sienna continued, and they accept Medicaid after 90 days. Garrett frowned. Medicaid? Mom's not on Medicaid. She will be. Her assets are minimal. Sienna glanced at me. Quick, calculated. Social Security doesn't cover long-term care costs. We checked. We, like they were a team. Like I was a problem they were solving together. Dr. Brennan nodded. It's a good facility. I've had other patients there. Mrs. Pennington, would you like to tour it before deciding? I tried to write no, but my hand cramped. The letters came out jagged, illegible. Garrett took it as a yes. Riverside Care and Rehabilitation sat on the east side of Lima, tucked between a Dollar General and an abandoned gas station. The building was low and gray, 2 stories of cheap siding and narrow windows. Sienna drove. Garrett sat in front. I sat in back, strapped into the wheelchair they'd folded into the trunk. Every pothole sent pain shooting through my dead side. Inside smelled like boiled vegetables and urine masked by pine cleaner. A woman at the front desk smiled too wide. Her name tag said Denise. You must be the Pennington family. We've been expecting you. Sienna had called ahead. Of course she had. Denise gave us the tour. Showed us the physical therapy room, 3 exercise mats, some resistance bands, a parallel bar, the dining hall, folding tables, plastic chairs, residents slumped over trays. The rooms, small, 2 beds each, 1 shared bathroom. We have a semi-private available now, Denise said. Your roommate would be Mrs. Chen. Lovely woman, very quiet. Quiet probably meant comatose. Garrett shifted his weight. How much is this monthly? $4,500. Includes room, board, and therapy. His face went pale. That's more than I make. Most families transition to Medicaid after the initial period. Denise pulled out papers. Lots of papers. Your mother's savings would cover the first few months, then... She doesn't have savings, Garrett said. Just Social Security. Sienna touched his arm. We'll figure it out. The important thing is getting your mom the care she needs. I wanted to scream. I had $344,597 in the bank. Enough to pay for years of care. Enough to live somewhere decent. But telling them meant telling Garrett I'd sold the farm. His farm. The land his father broke his back working. The land Garrett grew up on, learned to drive a tractor on. Brought his first girlfriend to see the sunset from. I'd stolen his inheritance and hidden it like a thief. Denise pushed a pen into Garrett's hand. Just sign here as responsible party. We'll work out payment details later. He stared at the paper. Post-it notes marked 6 different signature lines. I recognized Sienna's handwriting on the notes. Garrett. Sienna's voice was soft, reasonable. Your mom needs help. You can't do this alone. He signed. Each page, each line. The pen made scratching sounds on the paper. I watched from my wheelchair. Watched my son sign away my freedom without knowing what he was doing. They moved me in on October 30th, 12 days after the stroke. Garrett carried my small suitcase. the one I'd used for the trip to Michigan in 2019 to see my sister. Inside were 5 outfits, my toothbrush, the photo of Thomas in the silver frame, and the small Bible from our wedding. My coat stayed at the hospital. I asked about it with frantic gestures. A nurse said it must have been thrown away during cleaning. Standard procedure. The receipt was gone. My proof of the deposit. Gone. Mrs. Chen turned out to be 93 and deaf. She sat in her bed all day watching game shows with the volume at maximum. The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud. The noise drilled into my skull. The physical therapist came twice a week. A young man named Marcus who spoke too loud and slow like I was mentally impaired. Now, Mrs. Pennington, let's try to lift your arm. I tried. My arm stayed dead. Meals arrived on plastic trays. Overcooked chicken, instant mashed potatoes, Jell-O in colors that didn't exist in nature. I ate because I had to. The food tasted like cardboard. Garrett visited once. November 3rd, Saturday. He stayed 20 minutes. How's the therapy going? I shrugged with my good shoulder. Sienna says these things take time. He looked around the room, at Mrs. Chen drooling in her sleep, at the water-stained ceiling tiles. It's not forever, Mom. Just until you get stronger. He didn't ask about my apartment, didn't ask about my bills, didn't ask if I needed anything. He left without hugging me. Eloise came on November 7th, Tuesday afternoon. She brought flowers, cheap carnations from Kroger, and a horror on her face she tried to hide. Martha, oh, Martha. She pulled a chair close, held my good hand. Her palm was warm and papery. I grabbed the notepad, wrote with shaking letters, G money help. She stared at it. Garrett's after your money? I nodded, wrote more, S knows farm. Eloise went white. Sienna knows you sold it? I nodded again. How? I couldn't explain about the real estate connection. Couldn't write fast enough. I just pointed at the notepad and then at my head. Tapped urgently. Eloise understood. She always understood. We'd been family since 1979. She'd done my taxes for 30 years. She was the only person I'd told about the sale before it closed. What do you need me to do? I wrote, stop. Stop what? Garrett. She bit her lip, looked at the door, lowered her voice. Martha, if I tell him about the money, he'll know you hid it. He'll be furious. I knew that. I knew my son. Knew how he'd see it. Betrayal, lies, his mother selling the one thing his father loved most in the world and hiding the money like he was a criminal. But I also knew what Sienna was planning. I could see it in her eyes that night at the hospital. She wasn't just after money. She was after everything. I wrote again, lawyer. Eloise nodded slowly. I'll call James Hartley. He does elder law. But Martha, she squeezed my hand. If Garrett's already signed papers as responsible party, changing that will be hard and expensive. I pointed at the notepad, wrote a number, 342750. Her eyes widened. You can afford it. I nodded. Okay. She stood, folded the paper I'd written on and put it in her purse. I'll call him tonight. Don't worry. But I did worry. Because that afternoon, after Eloise left, a woman from administration came to my room. Her name tag said Mrs. Valdez. Mrs. Pennington, we need to discuss your payment situation. I stared at her. Your son hasn't provided proof of funds for next month's care. We require either payment in full or Medicaid certification by November 15th. Otherwise, she paused, smiled gently. We'll need to make other arrangements. Other arrangements meant discharge, meant dumping me somewhere cheaper. Or back at my apartment where I couldn't walk, couldn't cook, couldn't live. Mrs. Valdez left papers on my bedside table. Red letters at the top. Payment required. That night, I lay in bed listening to Mrs. Chen's snore and the television murmur through the walls. Someone down the hall was crying. Someone else was yelling for a nurse. I thought about Thomas, about the night in 1995 when the bank threatened foreclosure on the farm. We'd had a bad year. Drought killed half the corn. Thomas sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. Papers spread everywhere. We're going to lose it, Martha. Everything. I'd sold my mother's pearl necklace, got $1,400 for it. Not enough to save the farm, but enough to buy us 2 more months. Thomas found a loan. We survived. He never knew about the necklace. Now I was doing it again, selling something precious, hiding the truth, trying to survive. The difference was Thomas would have forgiven me. Garrett wouldn't. On November 12th, a nurse I didn't recognize came during evening rounds. Young woman, maybe 25. She checked my vitals, marked something on her clipboard. As she turned to leave, she knocked over my water cup. Papers scattered. "Oh, I'm so sorry." She bent to pick them up. One paper slid near my wheelchair. Official letterhead. Allen County Probate Court. I could only read the top line before she snatched it back. Application for emergency guardianship. Martha E. Pennington, respondent. My heart stopped. The nurse stuffed the papers back into her folder, smiled. "Have a good night, Mrs. Pennington." She left quickly. I sat frozen. Guardianship. Garrett was petitioning for guardianship. If he got it, he'd have access to everything. My bank accounts, my assets. He'd see the $344D, $597. He'd know what I'd done, and Sienna would control it all through him. I grabbed my notepad, tried to call for someone. My hand shook so hard I dropped the pen. Mrs. Chen's television blared. The Wheel of Fortune theme song. I tried to yell. My voice came out as a wheeze, a whisper. Nothing. No one came. The clock on the wall said 7:47 p.m. Visiting hours were over. Eloise wouldn't be back until next week. Garrett wasn't coming at all. I was alone. The paper on my bedside table glowed under the fluorescent light. Payment required. Deadline, November 15th. 3 days away. I looked at my left hand. Dead weight. My left leg. Useless. Half of me was gone. The other half was trapped. And somewhere in Lima, Sienna was sitting with my son, probably making plans, probably signing more papers I'd never see. Thomas used to say, "The hardest thing isn't the fall. It's lying there knowing you can't get back up." I understood now. I understood exactly what he meant. Thanksgiving came on a Thursday, November 28th, 2023. The activities director hung construction paper turkeys in the hallway. Orange and brown, googly eyes, the kind kindergartners make. At 66 years old, I was supposed to find that cheerful. They served dinner at 5 o'clock. Turkey from a bag, reheated, instant gravy with lumps, cranberry sauce still shaped like the can, green beans boiled gray. I ate alone at a corner table. Mrs. Chen stayed in bed, said her stomach hurt, though I suspected she just couldn't face another meal in that dining room. Families came for other residents. I watched them through the window, saw daughters pushing mothers in wheelchairs outside for fresh air, saw grandchildren bringing flowers, saw a man about my age dancing slowly with his wife in the hallway, her feet shuffling, him holding her up. Nobody came for me. Eloise had called the day before. Left a message at the nurse's station. "Tell Martha I'm in Cleveland with my daughter. Emergency with the grandkids. I'll call next week." Garrett didn't call at all. At 7 that evening, I rolled back to my room. The nurse on duty, a heavy woman named Brenda, helped me into bed. She smelled like cigarettes and hand sanitizer. "Your family coming tomorrow?" she asked while adjusting my blanket. I shook my head. "Shame. Holidays are hard here." She patted my arm. "You got that right hand working pretty good now, though. Therapy's helping." My right hand could hold a fork, could write shaky letters, could grip the wheelchair. Small victories that felt like nothing. After Brenda left, I stared at the ceiling. Water stains formed shapes. A dog. A mountain. Thomas used to do that with clouds. Point at the sky and say, "That one's a train," or "That's a whale." The last Thanksgiving with Thomas was 2018, 5 years ago. We'd gone to Garrett's apartment in Columbus. His first wife, Angela, was still alive then. They'd made a real dinner. Turkey from the oven, not a bag. Homemade rolls, pumpkin pie with actual pumpkin. Angela died in a car accident 7 months later. Drunk driver ran a red light. Garrett fell apart. Started missing work. Stopped answering calls. I'd driven to Columbus twice to check on him. Found dishes piled in the sink and him sleeping at 2 in the afternoon. I understood grief. I'd lived it when Thomas died. But Garrett's grief turned bitter. Turned into something else. Resentment, maybe. Like the world owed him something and refused to pay. That's when he became easy to manipulate. That's when someone like Sienna could slip in. Mrs. Chen's television played. Some movie with explosions. The volume shook the walls. I thought about the guardianship petition. The nurse had dropped it 12 days ago, November 12th. That meant Garrett had filed it sometime before that. Maybe early November. Maybe right after Halloween. How long did these things take? I didn't know. Court systems moved slow. I knew that much. But emergency guardianship. Sienna would have pushed for emergency status, claimed I was in danger, claimed I needed immediate protection. From what? From myself. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying my life. December 1st. Friday. The payment deadline had passed. Mrs. Valdez appeared at my door with 2 security guards. Mrs. Pennington, we need to discuss your account status. I grabbed my notepad, wrote, waiting for Medicaid. Your Medicaid application was denied. Household assets exceed eligibility threshold. I stared at her. That was impossible. My apartment was worthless. My car was ancient. I had no assets except $344,597 in Lima Community Bank. Someone had told them. Someone had reported my account. Mrs. Valdez continued. Without payment by December 5th, we'll be forced to discharge you. Do you have family who can take you? I wrote, son. We've called him 3 times. He hasn't returned our messages. Of course he hadn't. Sienna was probably screening his calls, telling him to ignore the nursing home, telling him they were trying to squeeze money from him, setting up the perfect situation where I'd be discharged with nowhere to go, completely dependent on whatever Garrett decided. We can refer you to county assistance, Mrs. Valdez said, but the waiting list for subsidized care is 6 months minimum. 6 months. Winter on the street in a wheelchair. That was my option. She left the papers on my table. Discharge notice. 4 days to figure out how to save myself. That night I tried calling Lima Community Bank from the phone in the hallway. The one residents could use for 15-minute increments. I dialed with my good hand. It rang twice, then 3 times. Lima Community Bank. This is Jennifer speaking. How may I help you? I tried to talk. Forced air through my throat. Made a sound like wind through branches. Hello? Is anyone there? I tried again. Harder. My throat burned. I'm sorry. I can't hear you. Please call back. She hung up. I sat in the wheelchair staring at the phone. 20 feet away, Mr. Patterson argued with his daughter about going home. 30 feet away, someone's alarm beeped steadily, unanswered. The phone mocked me. My dead voice mocked me. Everything mocked me. I rolled back to my room. Mrs. Chen was gone. They'd moved her to hospice that morning. Heart failure. I had the room to myself now. Silence except for hallway noise. I pulled out my notepad, wrote a list. Assets. Bank account, $340,597 car, worthless. Apartment lease, month to month. Furniture, old. Problems. Can't speak, can't walk, can't access bank. Garrett has legal control, responsible party. Guardianship petition filed, discharge in 4 days. Allies, Eloise, where? Pastor Grant. I stared at Pastor Grant's name. He'd come once, 2 weeks ago. November 14th. Tuesday. Brought communion. Prayed with me. Said he'd come back. He hadn't, but he might answer if I called. The church number was in my head. I'd called it 1,000 times over the years. December 2nd. Saturday. I tried the hallway phone again at 10 in the morning. Christ Community Church. It rang 6 times, then voicemail. Pastor Grant's voice. You've reached Christ Community. Please leave a message. I couldn't leave a message. I hung up. At 2 o'clock I tried again. Same voicemail. At 6 o'clock, someone answered. Christ Community, this is Bill Grant. I made my wind sound. Desperate. Urgent. Hello? I can't hear you very well. Are you okay? I tapped the phone 3 times. SOS. Like in old movies. Are you in trouble? Tap once for yes. I tapped once. Do you need help? Tap once for yes. I tapped once. Are you calling from a number I can see? I tapped once. Okay, I'm going to hang up and call you back. Stay on the line. He hung up. 30 seconds later, the phone rang. I grabbed it. This is Pastor Grant. I'm looking at the caller ID. It says Riverside Care. Are you at Riverside? I tapped once. Are you a member of my congregation? One tap. Martha. Is this Martha Pennington? I tapped twice. Hard. Yes, yes. His voice changed. Martha, hold on. I'm coming right now. I'm 10 minutes away. Stay by the phone. He hung up. I waited. A nurse passed and frowned at me. You've been on that phone for 20 minutes. I didn't move. 12 minutes later, Pastor Grant came through the front doors. I saw him from the hallway. Tall man, gray beard, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. He looked around, spotted me by the phone. Martha. He knelt by my wheelchair. What's wrong? I handed him my notepad, the list I'd made. He read it slowly. His face darkened. Guardianship petition? When? I wrote, don't know, soon. And your son doesn't know about this bank account? I shook my head. Martha, this is serious. If he gets guardianship and finds out you hid this money... He stopped, rubbed his face. You need a lawyer. Now. I wrote, Eloise called one. Hartley, gone. James Hartley? He's good. I know him from the Interfaith Council. Pastor Grant pulled out his phone. Dialed. James, it's Bill Grant from Christ Community. I've got an emergency. Yeah, guardianship case. Tomorrow? That would be perfect. He looked at me. Can he come see you tomorrow afternoon? I nodded so hard my neck hurt. She says yes. Riverside Care, room 14. 2 o'clock. Thank you. He hung up, squeezed my shoulder. James is cutting his vacation short. He'll be here tomorrow. Meanwhile, you need to stay calm. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. And Martha? He met my eyes. You should know. I saw Garrett last week at Kroger. He was with that woman, Sienna. They were buying luggage. They were planning to leave, planning to run, planning to take everything and disappear. Pastor Grant left at 8. Promised to come back tomorrow with Hartley. I sat in my room in the dark. 4 days until discharge. Less than 24 hours until the lawyer came. If he came. If he could help. If it wasn't already too late. Outside my window, Lima twinkled with early Christmas lights. Someone had strung them on the Dollar General across the street. Red and green. Blinking. Thomas and I used to put lights on the farmhouse every December. He'd climb the ladder while I held it steady. We'd argue about spacing. He wanted them even. I wanted them random. He always won. The farm was gone now. Sold to strangers who probably didn't care about Christmas lights or anything else that mattered. I'd saved myself $342,597 and lost everything that made it worth having. The math didn't work anymore. Nothing worked anymore. James Hartley arrived at 1:47 p.m. on December 3rd, Sunday, 13 minutes early. He was shorter than I expected, maybe 5'8", with wire-rimmed glasses and a gray suit that looked expensive. He carried a leather briefcase that had seen better days. Pastor Grant came with him. They found me in the common room, parked by the window where I could watch cars pass on the street. Mrs. Pennington. Hartley pulled up a chair, sat directly across from me. Pastor Grant told me about your situation. Before we start, I need to establish that you understand what's happening and can make informed decisions. Can you do that? I nodded. He pulled out a legal pad and a pen, drew a simple chart. I'm going to ask you questions. Point to yes or no. Understand? I pointed to yes. Good. Do you know what year it is? I wrote on my notepad, 2023. Do you know where you are? I wrote, Riverside, Lima. Oh. Do you know why you're here? I wrote, stroke OCT 15. Hartley made notes. Excellent. Your cognitive function appears intact. Now, the difficult part. Pastor Grant said you have assets your son doesn't know about? Is that correct? I pointed to yes. How much, approximately? I wrote 344s and 597ers. His eyebrows rose. And your son filed for guardianship without knowing about this? Yes. When did you learn about the guardianship petition? I wrote, Nov 12. Nurse dropped paper. So you've had no official notice? No service of petition? No. Hartley leaned back, looked at Pastor Grant. That's a problem. They should have served her directly or provided proper notice. If they didn't, The petition might be defective. Pastor Grant spoke. Is there time to fight it? Depends on the hearing date. Hartley turned to me. Do you remember anything from that paper? A date? Case number? I closed my eyes, tried to remember. The paper had been upside down, moving as the nurse grabbed it. But I'd seen something. A number. A date. I wrote, DC 15 maybe. December 15th. That's 12 days from now. Hartley checked his phone. Allen County Probate Court. I can pull the case tomorrow morning when the courthouse opens. But Martha, I need you to understand something. If your son gets guardianship, he'll have access to all your accounts. He'll see that money, and he'll want to know why you hid it. I knew that. I'd known it since the moment I sold the farm. There's another issue, Hartley continued. Why did you sell the farm without telling him? I wrote slowly. Wanted peace. Tired of being burden. But it was his inheritance. Yes, I know. He'll see it as theft. I know. Hartley studied me. You understand that even if we stop the guardianship, your relationship with your son may be permanently damaged? I pointed to yes. My hand shook. All right. Then here's what we're going to do. He pulled forms from his briefcase. First, you're going to sign a durable power of attorney naming someone you trust. Not your son, someone else. That person will have authority to manage your finances and medical decisions. It won't stop the guardianship petition, but it shows the court you've already made arrangements and don't need a guardian. I wrote, Eloise, my cousin, she's trustworthy? Yes. CPA, 30 years. Perfect. Second, I need proof you're mentally competent. I'll arrange for Dr. Brennan to do a formal evaluation. He's your regular doctor, correct? Yes. Third, we need to figure out how Sienna learned about the sale. He looked at Pastor Grant. You said she worked in real estate? That's what Garrett mentioned. Some kind of assistant position. Hartley made more notes. I'll subpoena records from local real estate firms. If she accessed confidential client information, that's a violation. Possibly criminal. My heart beat faster. Evidence. Real evidence against Sienna. Fourth, Hartley met my eyes. We need you on video, answering questions, demonstrating capacity. It's the strongest evidence we can present to the judge. I wrote, can't talk. You can write, you can gesture, you can tap for yes and no. That's enough. He pulled out his phone, set it on the table. We'll do it now. Pastor Grant will witness. Ready? I wasn't ready, but I nodded anyway. The video took 43 minutes. Hartley asked questions. I wrote answers on my notepad, holding each one up to the camera. Basic questions first. My name, my birth date, my address, then harder ones. When did I sell the farm? Why? Where's the money now? Do I want my son to have guardianship? That last one hurt to answer. No. Why not? Hartley asked. I wrote, he doesn't know me anymore. Sienna controls him. Do you believe Sienna is manipulating your son for financial gain? Yes? Do you have proof? I wrote, she knew about sale. Threatened me in hospital. OCT 15. What did she say? I wrote her words exactly. I know what you did. I know where you hid the money. Your secret is safe with me. For now. Hartley's jaw tightened. And your son was present? No. He left to get coffee. She waited until we were alone. Did anyone else hear this? No. That's going to be hard to prove. Her word against yours. But combined with other evidence... He stopped recording. This is good, Martha. Really good. You come across as lucid and aware. The judge will see that. Pastor Grant squeezed my shoulder. You did great. I didn't feel great. I felt exhausted. My right hand cramped from writing. My head ached. Hartley packed his briefcase. I'll file an objection to the guardianship petition tomorrow. I'll also request an expedited hearing and ask for your medical evaluation. Expect Dr. Brennan to call you here within the next day or two. Meanwhile, don't sign anything from Riverside Administration. Don't agree to discharge. If they push, tell them you have legal representation and they should contact me. He handed me his card. James Hartley, attorney at law, elder law and guardianship defense. One more thing. He paused at the door. The discharge notice, December 5th. That's in 2 days. Do you have $4,500 to pay for this month? I pointed to yes. Then we'll authorize payment from your account. I'll need signed authorization. Can you write that? I wrote, I authorize James Hartley to access account Dr. 4782, Lima Community Bank for payment of medical expenses. I signed it, Martha E. Pennington. The signature looked like a child's, shaky and uneven, but it was mine. This will buy us time, Hartley said. But Martha, understand that once I access that account, the bank will have record of it. If your son subpoenas bank records, and he'll see the withdrawals. He'll know someone's managing your money. That might accelerate his timeline. I wrote, do it. Because what choice did I have? Get discharged to nowhere? Die on the street in winter? Let Sienna win? No. Not that. Anything but that. After they left, I sat in my room and stared at Hartley's business card. A week ago, I had nothing. No voice, no allies, no hope. Now I had a lawyer, a plan, a fighting chance, but I also had a deadline, December 15th. 12 days to stop my son from taking control of my life. 12 days to prove I wasn't incompetent, wasn't helpless, wasn't the burden everyone assumed I was. I thought about Garrett, about the little boy who used to help Thomas feed the chickens, who'd sit on the tractor and pretend to drive, who'd bring me dandelions and call them flowers. That boy was gone. The man who replaced him was a stranger, bitter and broken and blind to what Sienna was doing. Could I save him? Did he want to be saved? I didn't know, but I knew I had to try. Because underneath all the anger and resentment, he was still my son. Still the child I'd rocked to sleep and bandaged when he fell and taught to tie his shoes. Still mine, even if he didn't want to be anymore. December 4th, Monday. Dr. Brennan came at 10 a.m. He spent 90 minutes with me, asked questions similar to Hartley's, tested my memory, my reasoning, my understanding of complex scenarios, made me solve simple math problems, write full sentences. Afterward, he sat on the edge of my bed. Martha, you're cognitively intact. The stroke affected your motor function and speech, but your mind is sharp. I'll document that in my evaluation. The court will have no medical basis for declaring you incompetent. Relief flooded through me. There's something else, he said quietly. I pulled your admission records. The physician evaluation submitted with the guardianship petition? It wasn't from me. It was from Dr. Richard Moss. Do you know him? I shook my head. He works at a walk-in clinic on the east side, sees maybe 200 patients a week. He evaluated you for 15 minutes on November 8th. You remember that? I thought back. November 8th. A man had come into my room, asked me questions while I was half asleep from pain medication. I'd barely responded. I nodded. That evaluation said you were severely impaired, unable to make decisions, a danger to yourself. Dr. Brennan's face hardened. That's not accurate. It's barely ethical. And I'm going to tell the court exactly that. Another piece of evidence, another crack in Sienna's plan. She'd rushed the petition, cut corners, assumed no one would fight back. She'd assumed wrong. That afternoon, Hartley called the nurses' station. They transferred him to the hallway phone. I rolled over and picked up. Martha? It's James Hartley. I've got news. The guardianship hearing is December 15th at 10 a.m. Allen County Probate Court. Judge Patricia Holbrook presiding. I've filed our objection and submitted Dr. Brennan's evaluation. We're also requesting the court review Dr. Moss's credentials and evaluation methods. I tapped once. Good. There's more. I subpoenaed records from Drake & Associates Realty. Sienna Blackwell worked there from March 2022 to September 2023 as an administrative assistant. Your farm sale closed in October. She would have had access to those files. 2 taps. Very good. Better yet, I found an email. She sent it to a coworker on February 15, 2023. Quote, found a gold mine. Old Lady Pennington sold 320-acre farm for $350K. Son doesn't know. If something happens to her, that money is up for grabs. End quote. With a smiling emoji, I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. That's premeditation, Martha. That's proof she targeted your son specifically because of your money. The court will see this. Your son will see this. Garrett would see it, would finally see what she was, what she'd done to both of us. I closed my eyes. The hallway phone cord twisted in my grip. We've got her, Hartley said. Now we just need to make it to the 15th. 9 days. I could do 9 days. I had to. The morning of December 15th started at 5:23 a.m. when I woke from a dream about Thomas. We'd been at the farm, walking through corn that grew taller than the house. He kept saying something I couldn't hear. I followed him deeper into the rows until the stalks closed around us and I couldn't see the sky. Then I woke up in room 14 at Riverside, and Thomas was dead. And today was the day everything would end or begin. Brenda helped me dress at 7. Navy blue dress, the same one I'd worn to Thomas's funeral. It still fit, though looser now. 3 months of nursing home food had carved 20 pounds off my frame. Big day? Brenda asked while brushing my hair. I nodded. You'll do fine, honey. I've seen lots of court hearings. Judges aren't as scary as people think. I wasn't scared of the judge. I was scared of seeing Garrett's face when he learned the truth. Pastor Grant picked me up at 8:30, drove me to the Allen County Courthouse in his truck. Had to fold my wheelchair 3 times before it fit in the back. Nervous? He asked. I wrote, terrified. James knows what he's doing. Trust that. I trusted James. I didn't trust that it would be enough. Allen County Probate Court occupied the 2nd floor of a building that smelled like old paper and floor wax. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. 12 plastic chairs in the gallery. 1 table for the petitioner, 1 for the respondent. American flag in the corner. Ohio state flag beside it. James Hartley waited at our table, papers spread in neat stacks. He wore a different suit today. Darker, more serious. Martha. He stood when Pastor Grant wheeled me in. Ready? I wrote, no. Good. That means you understand what's at stake. He gestured to the papers. Everything's here. Dr. Brennan's evaluation, your video testimony, the email from Sienna, bank records showing the deposit. We've got a strong case. The door opened behind us. I heard footsteps, voices. I didn't turn around. Couldn't make myself look. All rise, the bailiff said. Probate Court of Allen County is now in session. The Honorable Patricia Holbrook presiding. Judge Holbrook was younger than I expected, maybe 52. Short gray hair. Reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She settled behind the bench and opened a folder. Case number 2023 GU 00847. In the matter of the guardianship of Martha Elaine Pennington. Mr. Walsh, you're representing the petitioner? Trevor Walsh stood at the other table. Cheap suit, thinning hair. He looked like he did divorce cases and fender benders, not guardianship law. Yes, Your Honor. Trevor Walsh for Garrett Pennington, the petitioner. And Mr. Hartley for the respondent? Yes, Your Honor. Let's begin. Mr. Walsh, your case? Walsh cleared his throat. Your Honor, my client Garrett Pennington seeks appointment as guardian of person and estate for his mother, Martha Pennington. On October 15, 2023, Mrs. Pennington suffered a severe stroke, leaving her unable to speak or manage her affairs. She currently resides at Riverside Care, requires extensive assistance with daily activities, and has no advance directives in place. Mr. Pennington is her only child and closest living relative. We believe guardianship is necessary to protect Mrs. Pennington's interests and ensure proper care. Judge Holbrook made notes. You've submitted a medical evaluation? Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Richard Moss evaluated Mrs. Pennington on November 8th and found her severely impaired. And Mrs. Pennington was served notice of this proceeding? Walsh hesitated. Service was attempted at her residence, Your Honor. Her residence being Riverside Care? No, Your Honor. Her apartment on Elm Street, where she hasn't lived since October 18th. We weren't aware she'd been moved. Judge Holbrook's expression didn't change, but something in her posture sharpened. So, Mrs. Pennington was never properly served? The notice was mailed, Your Honor, to an address where she doesn't live. Mr. Walsh, that's not proper service under Ohio guardianship law. You know that. Walsh shuffled papers. We can cure that defect, Your Honor. Mrs. Pennington is here today. She's clearly been informed. By her own attorney, not by you. We'll address that issue in a moment. Mr. Hartley, your response? Hartley stood. Your Honor, we object to this petition on multiple grounds. First, as you've noted, service was defective. Second, The medical evaluation is inadequate. Dr. Moss spent 15 minutes with Mrs. Pennington while she was medicated and in pain. He's not her regular physician and has no history with her. Third, Mrs. Pennington is not incompetent. She's aphasic, unable to speak due to stroke, but cognitively intact. We've submitted an evaluation from Dr. Robert Brennan, her physician of 20 years, confirming this. Fourth, Mrs. Pennington has already executed a durable power of attorney naming her cousin Eloise Pennington as her agent. A guardian is unnecessary. Judge Holbrook studied the papers. When was this power of attorney executed? December 3rd, Your Honor, after Mrs. Pennington became aware of this petition. And you're arguing she had capacity to execute that document? Yes, Your Honor. We've submitted video testimony demonstrating her capacity. She answers complex questions, handles her own finances, and makes informed decisions. She simply cannot speak. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Pennington, do you understand why you're here today? I nodded, wrote on my notepad, yes. Do you understand that your son is asking the court to appoint him as your guardian? Yes. Do you want a guardian? No. Why not? I wrote carefully. I am competent. I have made my own arrangements. Judge Holbrook read my answer. Mr. Walsh, your client is present. I'd like to hear from him. Mr. Pennington, please approach. I heard the chair scrape behind me, heard footsteps. Then Garrett was at the table next to Trevor Walsh, and I was looking at my son for the first time in 6 weeks. He'd lost weight, his suit hung loose, dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't look at me. Mr. Pennington, Judge Holbrook said, why are you seeking guardianship of your mother? Garrett's voice came out rough. Because she can't take care of herself, Your Honor. She can't talk, can't walk. She's alone in a nursing home. Someone needs to make sure she's okay. Have you visited her at Riverside? He hesitated. Once. In early November. Once in 6 weeks? I work in Columbus. It's an hour drive. But you're asking to control every aspect of her life. I'm asking to protect her. From what? Garrett finally looked at me. Our eyes met. I saw confusion there. Pain. From people who might take advantage of her. Judge Holbrook leaned forward. Mr. Hartley has submitted some interesting evidence. An email from your fiancée, Sienna Blackwell. Are you aware of this email? Garrett frowned. What email? Hartley stood. Your Honor, may I display the evidence? Please. Hartley set up a small projector. The email appeared on the wall, enlarged, white text on blue background. From S. Blackwell Drake Associates. Come to you, M. Chen Drake Associates. Come date, February 15th, 2023. Subject, opportunity found a gold mine. Old Lady Pennington sold 320-acre farm for $350K. Son doesn't know. If something happens to her, that money is up for grabs. The courtroom went silent. I watched Garrett's face, watched the confusion shift to recognition, to horror. That's... His voice cracked. That's not... Is Sienna Blackwell your fiancée? Judge Holbrook asked. Yes, but when did you meet her? March. Last March. At a bar in Columbus. 1 month after she sent this email. Garrett turned pale. She knew about the farm? Hartley spoke. Your mother sold the Pennington family farm on October 10th, 2023, for $350,000. She deposited $342,750 into her personal account the morning of her stroke. Ms. Blackwell worked at the realty firm that brokered the sale. She had access to confidential files. She saw the transaction. And then she found you. No. Garrett shook his head. No, that's not. Sienna loves me. She wouldn't... Where is Ms. Blackwell now? The judge asked. Garrett didn't answer. Mr. Pennington, where is your fiancée? In the gallery. She came with me. Bailiff, please ask Ms. Blackwell to approach. I turned my wheelchair. Saw her in the back row. Blonde hair perfect. Leather jacket. She stood slowly, face carefully neutral. But her eyes found mine. And for 1 second, I saw everything. The calculation, the fury, the knowledge that she'd lost. She walked to the front, stood beside Garrett. Judge Holbrook held up a printed copy of the email. Ms. Blackwell, did you write this? That was a joke between coworkers. A joke about exploiting an elderly woman's assets? It wasn't serious. You had access to confidential real estate files? Part of my job. And you met Mr. Pennington 1 month after learning his mother had sold valuable property? Sienna's jaw tightened. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences, Ms. Blackwell. Judge Holbrook looked at Garrett. Mr. Pennington, do you still want this guardianship? Garrett stared at Sienna, at the email, at me. Mr. Pennington, I need an answer. His voice broke. Your Honor, I don't know what to think. I thought my mother was broke. I thought she needed help. If she has money, if she sold the farm. He turned to me, really looked at me. Mom, why didn't you tell me? I couldn't answer. Not with words. I picked up my pen, wrote on the notepad, held it up so he could see. I wanted peace. Not to be a burden. The farm was killing you inside. I set you free. His face crumpled. You thought you were a burden? Yes. Mom, you were never. He looked at Sienna again. Did you know about this? She said nothing. Did you use me to get to her money? Still nothing. Garrett stepped back, away from her. Your Honor, I withdraw the petition. Judge Holbrook made her ruling at 11:47 a.m. Petition denied. Guardianship unnecessary. Mrs. Pennington demonstrated capacity. Power of attorney in place. Case dismissed. She also ordered the Allen County prosecutor to review Sienna's conduct for potential fraud charges. Sienna walked out without looking back. Didn't say goodbye to Garrett. Didn't acknowledge anyone. Just left. Garrett stood alone in the hallway afterward. Pastor Grant wheeled me past him toward the exit. Mom, wait. I stopped. Turned the wheelchair. He knelt down, eye level with me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have listened. Should have visited. Should have known something was wrong. I let her use me. Use us. I reached out, touched his face with my good hand. He started crying. I don't deserve forgiveness. I wrote, You're my son. Always. I'll make this right. I promise. I didn't know if he could, but I nodded anyway, because that's what mothers do. On January 9th, 2024, I moved into apartment 3B at Meadowbrook Senior Living. Ground floor, 800 square feet. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom with grab bars and a walk-in shower. Small kitchen with lowered counters. Living room with a window facing the courtyard garden. Rent was $1,250 a month. I could afford it now. Pastor Grant and Eloise helped me move. Not that I had much to move. The furniture from my old apartment had been sold or donated while I was at Riverside. Everything I owned fit in 6 boxes and 2 suitcases. It's nice, Eloise said, arranging my few dishes in the kitchen cabinets. Quiet. Safe. Safe. That word meant something different now. I set Thomas's photo on the bedside table. The silver frame had a dent in one corner from when it fell during the move, but his face looked the same. Smiling. Young. 43 years old forever. You would have hated this place, I said to the photo. My voice came out slurred and quiet, but it came out. 6 weeks of speech therapy had given me back maybe 70% of what I'd lost. Too small. No land, but it's mine. The photo didn't answer. It never did. James Hartley had worked fast after the hearing. December 16th, he'd established an irrevocable living trust. Eloise as primary trustee, Pastor Grant as co-trustee. The $342,150 minus $8,000 in legal fees went into the trust. Investments split between municipal bonds and a conservative index fund. I kept $42,150 in a separate account for immediate expenses. First month's rent and deposit at Meadowbrook. New wheelchair that didn't squeak. Winter coat that actually fit. Physical therapy 3 times a week at Lima Regional. The trust generated about $1,870 monthly in interest and dividends. Combined with my Social Security of $1,047, I had $3,117 coming in every month. My expenses ran about $2,450. Rent, medications, food, utilities. That left $667 for everything else. Movies I'd never go see. Restaurants I'd never visit. A life that looked nothing like the one I'd planned. But it was a life. My life. Nobody else is. On December 22nd, the Allen County prosecutor had filed charges against Sienna Blackwell, attempted theft by deception, felony, 4th degree under Ohio Revised Code 2913, ERO 1. If convicted, she faced up to 18 months in prison and fines up to $5,000. The trial was set for March. Hartley said the evidence was strong. The email, her real estate access, the timeline of meeting Garrett 1 month after seeing the farm sale. I didn't care about the trial. Didn't care if she went to prison or walked free. She was gone. That was enough. Garrett came to see me on January 12th, Saturday, 3 days after I'd moved into Meadowbrook. He knocked instead of just walking in. That was new. "Mom, can I come in?" I was in the recliner by the window, doing hand exercises with a stress ball. My left hand still barely worked, but the therapist said consistency mattered. "Come," I managed. The word took effort. He entered carrying flowers, daisies, white ones with yellow centers. My favorites, though I didn't remember ever telling him that. "These are for you." He set them on the coffee table, looked around. "Nice place." "Small," I said. "But it's yours." Yes, we sat in silence. Him on the couch, me in my chair. The distance between us felt bigger than 12 feet. "I've been seeing a therapist," he said finally. "Dr. Susan Merrick, in Lima, twice a week since December 17th. I nodded, waited. "She's helping me understand things. About grief. About Angela. About how He stopped. Started again. "After Angela died, I stopped caring about anything. Work. Family. Myself. I just wanted the pain to stop. And when Sienna came along, she made it stop. Or I thought she did. But she was just giving me something else to focus on. Someone else's agenda instead of my own. Not your fault," I said slowly. "It is, though. I should have seen it. Should have questioned why this beautiful woman suddenly wanted to be with a broke, divorced real estate agent who couldn't close a deal to save his life. Love makes..." I struggled for the word. "Blind." "Yeah." He laughed bitterly. "It does." Another silence. Outside, someone walked past with a small dog. The dog sniffed at the garden bushes. "Why didn't you tell me about the farm?" Garrett asked. Not angry, just sad. I could have handled it. I picked up my notepad. Writing was still easier than talking. I wrote, "You loved it too much. It was killing you. Watching it die. I ended it quick." He read it twice. "But it was Dad's legacy." I wrote, "Dad's legacy is you, not land." His eyes filled. He looked away. "I don't deserve that." "You're my son," I said aloud. "Always." "I signed papers putting you in that place. I believed Sienna over you. I didn't visit, didn't call. I abandoned you when you needed me most." "But you came back," I said. "That counts." He wiped his eyes. "Dr. Merrick says I need to make amends, real ones, not just saying sorry." I waited. I got a job at Lima Home Realty, just answering phones and doing paperwork. But it's something. Pays $31,000 a year. I moved back here from Columbus. Found a studio on Market Street, $600 a month. "Good," I said. "And I want to help. With your therapy, your appointments, whatever you need. I know I can't fix what I did, but I can be here now." I thought about that. About whether I wanted him here. Whether I could trust him not to hurt me again. The answer surprised me. Yes. He looked up. "Yeah? Yes. But slow. Slow. Okay. I can do slow." He stood, hesitated. "Can I hug you?" I nodded. He crossed the room, bent down, wrapped his arms around me carefully like I might break. I hugged him back with my good arm. He smelled different. Cheaper soap. Less cologne. More real. "I love you, Mom," he whispered. "Love you too," I managed. When he left, the apartment felt warmer somehow. On January 20th, I had coffee with Eloise in the Meadowbrook common room. She brought pastries from the bakery on Main Street, blueberry scones. I could only eat half of one, but it tasted like heaven after months of institutional food. "The trust is doing well," she said, pulling out papers. "Interest posted on the 15th. $1,912 for the month. I transferred your stipend this morning." Thank you, I said. You know you're paying me too much, right? $200 a month for what amounts to checking statements and moving money around? Worth it, I said. Peace of mind. She smiled. If you say so. We sat watching other residents. Mrs. Kowalski doing a puzzle, Mr. Henderson reading the newspaper, two women whose names I didn't know playing cards. This was my community now. These people, this place. It wasn't what I'd imagined at 66, wasn't the farmhouse porch with Thomas, wasn't family dinners with grandchildren I'd never have, but it was something. It was enough. Do you regret it? Eloise asked quietly. Selling the farm? I thought about that. About the 320 acres Thomas and I had worked. The fields we'd planted. The barn we'd repainted 3 times. The house where Garrett had grown up. No, I said finally. It was time. Even knowing what happened, the stroke, Riverside, all of it, even then. Because the alternative was dying slowly on land I couldn't maintain. Being a burden Garrett resented. Watching the bank take it piece by piece. This way, I'd chosen. I'd acted. I'd saved myself. The cost was high, but the cost of doing nothing would have been higher. On January 31st, Garrett came for his weekly visit. We'd established a routine. Every Saturday at 2 o'clock. He'd bring lunch from somewhere in town. We'd eat together, talk about small things. His job, my therapy, the weather. He never mentioned Sienna. I never asked. That day, he brought sandwiches from the deli on Spring Street. Turkey and Swiss for him. Chicken salad for me, soft enough that I could chew it without struggling. Dr. Merrick says I'm making progress, he said between bites. Says I'm starting to process the anger without directing it at everyone around me. Good, I said. She also says I need to forgive myself. That's the hard part. He set down his sandwich. Mom, I need to tell you something. I waited. The $50,000 you set aside for me, in the trust, I don't want it. I frowned, wrote, why not? Because I didn't earn it, didn't deserve it. I nearly destroyed you trying to steal everything. Taking that money feels like rewarding myself for being a terrible son. I wrote, it's not reward. It's investment. In your future. But I tapped the notepad. He read it again. You really believe that? He asked. That I have a future worth investing in? Yes, I said aloud. Always did. His throat worked. Okay. Then I'll take it. But I'm not touching it until I've proven I can stand on my own. The trust can hold it until I'm ready. Maybe a year, maybe 5, however long it takes. I nodded, wrote, proud of you. He smiled, actually smiled. The first real one I'd seen since Angela died. Thanks, Mom. We finished eating. He told me about a house he'd listed that week. A starter home on Elm Street. Young couple, first-time buyers. He'd walked them through inspections, helped with paperwork. It felt good, he said. Helping people, doing something useful. You are useful, I said. You always were. After he left, I sat by the window and watched the garden. Late January meant bare trees and brown grass, but someone had planted winter pansies in the beds. Purple and yellow faces turned toward the weak sun. Spring would come eventually. It always did. On February 3rd, I went outside for the first time since moving to Meadowbrook. Physical therapy had progressed to walking with a cane. 20 feet, 30, 50. My left leg dragged, but it moved. Pastor Grant walked beside me, slow, patient. How's it feel? He asked. Like work, I said. The best things usually are. We made it to the garden, sat on the bench there. The sun felt warm on my face despite the cold. Thomas would be proud of you, Pastor Grant said. Maybe, I said. Or maybe he'd be angry I sold the farm. Thomas loved you more than he loved that land. I know. Do you? He looked at me. Martha, you spent your whole life putting everyone else first. Thomas, Garrett, the farm. When did you put yourself first? October 15th, I said, when I deposited that check. And look what happened. You survived. You fought back. You're sitting here in the sunshine because you made a choice. I thought about that, about the woman who'd walked into Lima Community Bank with a check for $342,750, who'd decided that peace mattered more than land, that her life mattered more than anyone else's expectations. That woman had lost her voice but found something else. Something harder to name but easier to feel. Yes, I said. I did. We sat together until the cold got too sharp, then walked back inside. Slow, steady, one step at a time.